Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alison, the online piano and the online violin tutor. So today I'm going to talk you through how to tune your violin from complete scratch in absolute real time. So you're going to see me do this for real. So this is going to be exactly how it's going to be for you guys. This video is going to be ideal if you've got a brand new violin out the box and it's completely hideous. I'll show you. So this needs full on proper tuning. You'll also be able to use the same technique if you just want to tune your violin just for everyday purposes. So before I do that, I just want to very quickly inform you about my 1 to 30 violin course. So for those of you that don't know, and for those of you that have maybe just got a violin for Christmas and or perhaps your New Year's resolution, is to have a go at playing an instrument, have a go at playing the violin. You're having a look on YouTube, seeing who's teaching you violin lessons and things like that. Well, let me tell you, I have got a 1 to 30 violin course that has been around a good while. I know most of you know that I've already got this course. Most of you probably watching this have already bought the course. If you have, thanks very much. I hope you're enjoying it. But my 1 to 30 violin course guarantees to take you from a complete beginner to a very decent, accomplished intermediate level or intermediate player. So my 1 to 30 violin course is 100% downloadable. So it's available to absolutely anyone, anywhere in the world. Once you've downloaded the books, you can print them out if you like, or have a look at them on your computer or tablet, whatever. But the point is, once you've purchased, you can get going straight away. And they do come with videos as well. So the book series and the videos, which are all available on YouTube. The good part is that the first 10 lessons are absolutely free as well. So you have absolutely nothing to lose. I'll link the first 10 lessons underneath. Everything that you'll need is in those first 10 lessons, all the resources, all the PDFs, all the backing tracks and everything. Once you've done the first 10 lessons, you will then move on to Songbook 1, which is this book here. Once you've done all the pieces in Songbook 1, you'll move on to the next set of books. Songbook 1 is great because it contains 10 well-known classical pieces that have been arranged for the exact level that you will be by the time you have finished lesson 10. So you won't have to go around looking for any bits of music or bits of music that the exact level that you are, because I know the exact level that you're going to be at after finishing lesson 10. So you'll go through the Songbook 1. Songbook 1 will just help consolidate everything you've learned in those 10 lessons. After that, you will then move on to Tutorial Book 2, which is lessons 11 to 20. Once you've done that, you'll be moving on to Songbook 2, which is 10 more classical pieces and original pieces, which are designed to be in the exact level that you will be after lesson 20. And then you'll move on to the final books, lessons 21 to 30, which are going to be more technique based. And after that, you're going to be doing Songbook 3. So my violin is an all-encompassing course. So it'll teach you how to play the violin. It'll teach you all the different techniques, bowing techniques, fingering techniques, positions, technical work, scales, arpeggios, chromatics, all of that kind of good stuff. It teaches you how to read music as well. So basically it's an all-encompassing course and there's nothing else you need. So all of those details will be directly linked underneath this video. Alrighty, so there are a couple of different ways that you can tune the violin. One will be that you will need at least an app or maybe something on your phone that can give you the sounds of the violin. The app that I've got on my phone actually isn't available to download anymore, but there might be some more apps on there, and they will basically give you the sound of a G, a D, an A and an E. That's a G. So those give me the 4 sounds, so they're quite handy. Oh. So if you don't have an app or you can't get an app on your violin, what I will do is link some videos directly underneath it, which will give you the sound of each string. I've just put those together myself and they're on my channel, but I will link to them so you've got quick access to them. So whatever happens is you need the sound of a G, a D, an A and an E. Alternatively, you can use a piano, but I know a lot of you are not going to be able to have access to a piano or a keyboard or something like that. So once you have those sounds, and this part of the video is going to be for those of you that are pretty much going to be tuning from scratch. Now, If you are tuning from scratch where your strings are just horrendous, maybe you've just put a new bridge on, or they do actually need tuning, then you're going to have to use the pegs. Once you've got them to roughly about the right tune, then you can use the fine tuners down at the bottom here. And that's what you'll be using on a regular day-to-day basis. So the first things first, I always like to start with A. Now, I don't know what the sound of an A sounds like, so I'm going to use the app on my phone. Like I said, I'll link to some videos so you can click on the video on your phone and just play and stop the video, and it is just a kind of relentless sound of A that you hear all the time. So I want to know what an A sounds like. So that is a sound of an A. Now what I'm going to do, actually it's not da da, so it's not far off that. So I'm going to use the A peg. Now I've moved it a teeny tiny amount. Now you'll notice I haven't moved it to exactly where it needs to be. Now the reason why that is, and this is where you guitarist guys have been duly warned, these are not geared head pegs. So they are just regular ebony wood pegs. Now you've got to be careful with them. The strings on a violin are much smaller and much shorter in length than guitar strings, so you cannot treat them like guitar strings at all. Now tuning a violin like scratch from scratch like this will take me maybe a good 10 minutes to do, and even for me it's a bit kind of bottom clenching at times because I don't want to break strings. But the key to doing it, and I've never broken a string tuning in my 36 years of playing and tuning violin, and the reason being is that I've always been very careful to move the string bit by bit. It's where it can get a little bit frustrating, and I can see why people break the strings. You will not break the strings if you tune them bit by bit, because what you're doing is each time you move the string, you're stretching the string and you're letting it settle a little bit. So if I actually pluck the string whilst I'm tuning it, then you'll be able to hear the increments of how I'm doing it. So let me just remind myself of that A again. And so I normally wouldn't kind of pluck it, but I'm going to pluck it so that you can hear it moving, so you can see and hear how much I actually move the peg at any one time. So it is moving, but it's hardly moving at all. And I know most of you are probably shouting through the screen thinking, come on, get on with it. But you're going to break the strings if you do it any faster than this, I promise you. Let me just remind myself again. So I've gone a little bit too high there. So I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. Doesn't matter if the string goes a little bit too high. By the time you tune the rest of them anyway, it's going to drop back down. But that'll do. That'll do roughly for me. Now I'm going to move on to the D string. Right, so that's nowhere near it. So we've got a little bit of work going on here, and I can feel that the string is really loose when I'm plucking it. So again, you can hear how slowly I'm doing this. Now, one thing you should note, that when I'm moving these pegs, I'm also slightly pushing them in a little bit as well. So I'm not just turning them, I'm turning them in just a little bit. Otherwise the peg will just kind of, it can just plop out of the peg box. So you don't want to be aiming to sort of smash it in to actually put it, into the peg box. But I'm always kind of turning diagonally. So I'm turning with the purpose of turning the peg, and I'm also turning with the purpose of just gently kind of pushing it in, or making sure that it stays in that peg box. Like I say, I probably wouldn't normally be plucking the string at the same time, but I'm doing this whole video in real time for you, so you can pretty much see how long it is going to take me to tune the violin, minus obviously the chat I'm giving back to the camera just to help you. So it's a very slow process. I'm almost moving it notch by notch, but it's almost like it has to, think of it as like going around a clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got to go through each of those stages before you get back to 12, and that would be almost like tuning your violin or tuning the string to where it needs to go. So the string has to go through all of those stages. It can't just go from there to there. It's for those of you that drive a manual gear stick car. You don't start in first gear and then just go all the way to fifth. You've got to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. It's just the way you do it. Otherwise you start messing about with a gearbox. So it's very similar to that. So we're nearly there. It's like just when you think it's there, it's going to be there with the next notch. It's not. Do one more. So it's a teeny bit higher, but that's okay because I know the string is going to relax. Let's do the G. Right, so that's going all over the place. Nearly there. There we go. Oh, one more. And then finally the E string. So be careful with this one. Very small amounts. So this is why I said when you go around originally, it doesn't hurt to just tune them slightly higher than where they need to be. And I'm not talking very high, just the slightest, almost undetectably high, because by the time you go around and tune the strings are going to relax. So they're going to drop down a little bit. So you'll have to sort of go back and sort of notch them up again one, which is what I've just done. So it's not perfectly in tune, but that's okay because now we've got it mainly in tune that we have to use with the pegs. We're going to tune it with the fine tuners, and that's kind of stage 2. So that part of the video would be for those of you that are tuning the violin from scratch. Once you've got your violin actually in tune, we can kind of just move on to stage 2, or for those of you that are just maintaining the tuning of your violin, so perhaps when you're just getting it out to practice on a day-to-day basis, this is how you're then going to further fine-tune your violin. Okay, so the next thing that I would recommend that you do is to get yourself one of these. Now these are little tuners. They are like little guitar tuners. You can get slightly different ones of these. This one is a D'Addario NS micro tuner. So I will put a link in the description box underneath. This is the best one that I've found because it sits actually on the violin. A lot of this is not a cheap tuner. It you know, depends. As far as tuners go, it's not a cheap tuner, but I detest the ones that sit on the pegs because I don't think they're very accurate because they're working on vibrations. I prefer this one because it actually sits on the side of the violin like this. So you just open it out, squeeze it in, and just sort of push the little clamp in, and it sits on the violin there. So it's picking up the vibrations there, and it's also a lot easier to see. So when I'm tuning up and I switch it on, I can actually see I can actually see it there. Now we've tuned the strings according to the pegs. So it's even changed in between me just tuning it and now. But I mean, it's good enough. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use these tuners. Okay, so this is telling me it's ever so slightly flat. And basically I'm just going to turn the fine tuner until this tells me it's perfectly on an A, or your tuner tells you it's perfectly on an A. So there's no real thinking that you have to do with this. There's nothing, I mean, you know, your ears are going to help you, but if your ears don't really know the sound of the A and you're not really too sure and you're relying on this is what these are good for. So that now is a perfect A. I can see my tuner, the A has gone green, so we're perfectly on an A. So that's actually saying it's a C sharp. Now that D has gone green, so it's perfect. So a little word of advice as well is that if you have too far to go with this, so this was a C sharp, so it's one note or one semitone below the actual string note that it should be. Now this tuner has gone down quite a lot. I don't know if that's coming out there. So ideally I should really unwind this and tune it with the peg here, because you don't really want these tuners to sort of be too low. These are fine tuners, these finely tuned. So if it's registering as a D, but it's too low or it's too high, then that's when you use these tuners. When these guitar tuners or these violin tuners say that they're a different note, then really you should be doing those. I didn't for the video, just for the purpose of just kind of speeding it up and just showing you. But anyway, let's move on to a G. Okay, that says it's an F sharp, so I'm gonna have to move it here because it just won't be enough. I'll just completely run out of tuner. Okay, so it says it's a G, it's just not a very good G. So there we go, the G is green and it's perfect. Let's move on to the E. Now that says it's a D sharp, however I might get away with just turning the tuner. Okay, now that says it's perfect. Now I know from before that these strings were in tune a second ago, but because I've been messing around with it and the string has to kind of keep its flexibility, I know they're probably going to be out a little bit, so I'm going to go around and test them. That's still perfect actually. That's gone a little bit flat. That one's gone flat. And then E. Also a little bit flat, and I'm just going to check it one more time. And they're all perfect according to this. Now all the strings are perfectly in tune. I can take this tuner off and then we're done with that. So that's it. That is how to tune your violin. So the main thing is that if you are tuning your violin from scratch, you need to use the pegs little by little, and it will take quite a bit of time. Do you know what? It'll take as long as it takes to get the job done. Otherwise you're going to break the strings and you're going to have to constantly replace them. So if it takes you 10-15 minutes to do that, it's worth it, because then you're going to have to spend more money buying more strings and waiting 5 days or whatever it is to get the new set of strings. Once you've got them to once your ear tells you they are accurate enough, that's when you can move on to the fine tuners. If you are just coming to play your violin on a daily basis, to do your daily practicing, then you'll need to tune your violin up from scratch. So the next day when I go to play this might actually be fine. This might all sound really good and I might not need to touch it, but chances are I'll probably need to do something. So what I'll do is tomorrow when I go to practice, I'll pop my little tuner on and I'll just go through the strings and just tune them. Normally you'll just be able to tune them just the once and they won't go out of tune. I only had to go through it sort of 2-3 times to check it, because in today's example, I was actually tuning from scratch. In other words, I was having to use the pegs to do the tuning with. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a very in-depth way on how to tune your violin. If you go slow, you'll be absolutely fine with it. If you rush, then you're going to break the strings. You won't break the strings if you use the fine tuners, but you will break the strings if you use the pegs and you yank them too much. So for all of you guitarists out there, steady on. This is not a guitar. This is nothing like a guitar. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, all the links will be directly underneath, including my 1 to 30 violin course, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.